Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Isabella's Bedtime. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's story. What if the air around you held secrets it wasn't ready to share? In a small town surrounded by endless fields, there stood an old radio tower, tall and rusted, forgotten by most. People said it stopped working years ago, but some nights, when the wind was still, faint whispers slipped through the air, voices no one could place. A woman named Clara, who loved old machines, found a dusty radio in her attic and turned it on one rainy evening, expecting nothing but crackles. Instead, a voice came through, low and smooth, saying her name, Clara, like it had been waiting for her all along. At first, she laughed it off, thinking it was a trick, maybe a signal from far away mixing with the storm. But the next night, it came again, clearer this time, talking about things only she knew. Her favorite book as a child, the sound of her father's laugh, the way her kitchen smelled on Sunday mornings. Clara's fingers shook as she twisted the knobs, trying to lose the voice, but it stayed, soft and patient, following her every move. She started noticing little things after that, shadows stretching too long in her hallway, a chill brushing her neck when she stood still. The townsfolk had stories, whispers of their own about a secret project long ago, something about trapping voices in the air, experiments gone wrong. Clara couldn't stop listening, even as the voice grew quieter, almost kind, like a friend she didn't want to lose. One night, it said, "I'm closer now," and the room felt heavy, the radio glowing faintly even when she pulled the plug. She didn't sleep much after that, but when she did, the whispers wove into her dreams, gentle and strange, pulling her deeper into a place she couldn't name. The tower stood silent outside, but Clara knew it was watching, waiting for her to tune in again. She wasn't sure if she was afraid or curious anymore, maybe both, but the voice felt like it belonged to her now, a secret she couldn't shake. Our next story takes us to a village by the sea, where the water held more than fish and waves. The fishermen told tales of a creature in the deep, not one that dragged you under, but one that sang you to sleep forever. They called her the Tide Whisperer, a myth passed down through quiet nights. A man named Elias, who missed his wife more than he could say, took his small boat out one foggy evening, hoping to hear her song. The air was thick, the sea calm, and then it started, a sound like wind through reeds, soft and slow, wrapping around him. His hand slipped from the oars, his eyes fluttered, and he saw his wife's face in the mist, smiling like she used to. The song didn't rush him. It cradled him, pulling him down into a dream he didn't want to leave. The next morning, his boat floated back to shore, empty, rocking gently as if nothing had happened. The villagers didn't search for him. They knew the Tide Whisperer had claimed another, her voice a lullaby too sweet to resist. Somewhere in a dry, dusty desert, a man named Sam lived in a trailer with nothing but sand and stars for company. He spent his nights reading strange stories online, tales of hidden signals and secret plans. One night, he felt something, a hum inside his head, low and steady, like a machine he couldn't turn off. He thought he was imagining it, but it came back stronger night after night, whispering things he couldn't quite hear. Sam recorded it once, played it back, and caught a single word, "follow," buried in the noise. He drove out to where he thought it pointed, miles of nothing, but the hum stayed with him, softer now, almost comforting. People online said it was a government trick, a sound to control you, but Sam didn't mind anymore. He let it hum him to sleep, a quiet friend in the empty dark. The desert stretched on, endless and still, but the sound was his now, a mystery he didn't need to solve. In a cabin high in the mountains, a woman named Lena hid from a snowstorm that wouldn't stop. The wind screamed outside, but inside she found an old book, its pages yellow and torn, full of messy writing about the ones who wait. She read it by candlelight, the words blurring as she grew sleepy, and that night she dreamed of shapes in the snow, tall, silent figures standing just out of reach. When she woke, the book was gone, but the snow around the cabin held faint marks, tracks that looped and faded into nothing. The air felt thick, like someone was breathing it with her, but it wasn't scary. It was calm, like they'd been there all along, keeping her company. Lena stayed another night, listening to the storm, and the shapes came back in her dreams, closer now, whispering things she couldn't understand. The cabin creaked around her, old and tired, but she slept soundly, wrapped in a quiet she couldn't explain. Our last story in this part drifts to a quiet street where a house stood alone, its windows dark and empty. People said it was haunted, not by ghosts that screamed, but by ones that watched. A girl named Tara moved in, tired of running from place to place, and noticed the little things first. A door creaking open, a light flickering when she passed. One night, she woke to a sound, soft and steady, like footsteps pacing the hall. She got up, her heart thumping, and saw nothing, but the air felt alive, heavy with something she couldn't see. The neighbors had his story. A family lived there once, gone in a night, leaving only whispers behind. Tara started talking to the emptiness, asking who was there, and the sound stopped, replaced by a stillness that felt like an answer. She wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever it was seemed to listen, keeping her safe in its own strange way. The house stayed quiet after that, but Tara slept better, feeling eyes she couldn't prove were there. Rest now, my friends, as we slip into the next part of our night. In a small town where the streets wound like a maze, there was an old mirror in a thrift shop nobody wanted. It was tall, with a cracked wooden frame, and people said it showed things that weren't there. A woman named Mia bought it cheap, thinking it would look nice in her hallway, but soon she noticed something odd. Her reflection didn't always match her. She'd brush her hair, and the figure in the glass would keep brushing a second longer, or smile when she didn't. At first, she blamed her tired eyes, but one night she caught it staring at her, eyes wide and still, even after she turned away. The air grew cold, and she heard a faint hum like someone breathing too close. People in town whispered about a story, an old spirit trapped in mirrors, looking for someone to take its place. Mia covered it with a sheet, but she could still feel it watching, patient and quiet, waiting for her to look again. She started dreaming of a shadow standing behind her, copying her every move, and when she woke, the sheet was on the floor, the mirror bare and gleaming. Across the river, in a city full of noise, a man named Jay spent his nights in a basement, surrounded by screens and tangled wires. He was chasing something, a signal he'd found by accident, a live feed of places he knew, empty rooms and dark streets. One night, he saw his own apartment on the screen, the chair he'd just left still warm, but no one was there to hold the camera. He checked every corner, found nothing, yet the feed kept rolling, showing his life like a movie he didn't sign up for. The signal had no source, just a steady hum that buzzed in his ears when he tried to sleep. Some said it was a government trick, eyes everywhere watching everyone, but Jay didn't care. He let it play, the hum growing softer, almost friendly. He'd wake to new clips, his shadow moving when he didn't, and the screens glowed faintly, a quiet presence he couldn't turn off. The city buzzed outside, but in his basement, it was just him and the signal, keeping time with his breath. Deep in a forest, where the trees grew thick and tall, there stood a hollow oak, older than anyone could remember. The villagers called it the Wish Tree, saying it listened if you spoke to it at midnight. A woman named Tara went there one foggy night, her heart heavy from losing her brother, and whispered his name into the dark. The air went still, and a voice answered, not his, but something low and old, promising she'd see him soon. She walked home, the forest quiet around her, and that night her dreams filled with his laugh, soft and far away. The voice came back every night, gentle like a breeze, telling her things he used to say, and she'd wake with tears she didn't mind. People said the tree took more than it gave, a myth about souls caught in its roots. But Tara didn't care. It felt like he was with her again. She stopped going back, but the whispers stayed, a thread tying her to a place she couldn't see. Along a lonely highway cutting through the plains, a trucker named Roy drove under stars that never seemed to move. One night, his headlights caught something, a row of houses flickering into view, old and worn, then gone when he blinked. He slowed down, heart thumping, but the road was empty again, just dust and dark. The next night, it happened again, and this time he heard voices, laughter soft and quick, fading as he passed. Truckers at the diner talked about a town wiped off maps, a secret someone buried. But Roy didn't dig deeper. He kept driving, the sounds following him like passengers he couldn't shake. They weren't loud, just there, a hum in the cab that made the miles feel shorter. He'd park and sleep, the voices weaving into his dreams, and wake feeling less alone. The highway stretched on, straight and endless, but those nights, it felt like he had company he didn't mind. On a cliff by the sea, where the waves crashed slow and steady, an old lighthouse stood dark and quiet. Fishermen said it lit up sometimes, even though no one tended it anymore, a beam cutting through the black. A woman named Ella rented the place, looking for peace, and one stormy night, the light flared on, sweeping across the walls. She saw shadows in it, tall figures, still as stone, moving when the beam did. They didn't come closer, just stood there, and the air hummed with something she couldn't name. The stories called it a keeper's ghost, lost to the sea, guiding no one but himself. Ella watched, her breath slowing, and the light pulsed like a heartbeat, calm and sure. She slept that night with the beam cutting through her dreams, the shadows standing guard, and woke to a quiet she hadn't known she needed. The lighthouse stayed dark after that, but she felt it still, a glow she carried inside.